Welcome to another episode of the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast, the show where we empower coaches, experts to use podcasting as a powerful tool to drive sales and grow your business. Now, I'm your host, Karen Roberts. Now, after the break, I will be talking about podcast SEO and how to get discovered. But first, my guest today is Nadja Fromm. She is a marketing coach and a startup strategist. Now, she helps purpose-driven misfits and corporate escapees build bold, profitable businesses from the ground up. Now, she has over 20 years of experience in global brand marketing, and she teaches early stage founders how to master their marketing foundations, how to stand out and get real traction without the burnout or BS. So we're going to be talking about, really, guys, stop winging it, why most startups fail before they're even launched. So welcome to the show, Nadja.
So great to be here. Thank you, Karen.
First of all, let's do a little bit more about your backstory. And so you were in corporate. What actually was your inspiration to break free, grow your business, and help other startups do the same?
My story starts with really this 20 years, it's been 22 years of marketing roles and advertising agencies and also startups, but really a very intense journey. And as you mentioned, I worked with very large companies, so really household names, thinking about Lindt chocolate, Colgate, the toothpaste, think about the Weber barbecues, or Kraft Heinz. That was one of my last roles, the Heinz ketchups of the world. And I climbed the career ladder, and I climbed the ladder for these years because I always thought that if you just get to the next level, if you just make it one more step, that's where fulfillment is going to lay. That's where happiness is going to come. This is where it all happens, right? You have this expectation that you just need to hustle and grind hard enough, and then something happens. Something will just make sense. But once I reached that and was sitting at the head of the table, I still felt empty and unfulfilled and, quite honestly, truly burned out. And so for me, the realization really came pretty hard with a complete burnout and with a complete breakdown, which essentially turned out to be my breakthrough moment, to realize that success is not what necessarily society prescribes. It is what it is. Success is if you find something that is truly aligned with your values and your passion and your mission, your reason to be, and be able to be successful within that. I've come to realize that what are the things that I really enjoy doing? What are the things that I'm really good at? And bringing it all together. And this is where now with my company, with Fromm Consulting, I've seen how many incredibly talented people are stuck in the 9-to-5 grind. And for me, the mission is to show that there's a way, and specifically teach and coach on the fundamental moves, the fundamental first steps of how to build your business, how to successfully lay the foundation to be able to build a business that is sustainable in the long term and is not just financially viable, but is lighting you up without burning you out.
Love that. Love that. What you said right there is so true. I think for so many people out there is, how do I get to that next level? I'm going to be happy when that next promotion, and then realizing that actually this isn't fulfilling. And I know it's really difficult because we've all got bills to pay. We all get stuck because you've got to pay the mortgage, you've got to pay the bills, and people are afraid to drop this guaranteed income because, let's face it, it can be a scary place, going out and starting something new that you're passionate about, even within corporate world, there is no guarantee, right? Things could change like that. But the perception in our own minds is that it's guaranteed. So for you, how do you help? Because startups, they all probably think they can do it for themselves, or they start out thinking, I'll just give it a try and see what happens. But if you want a successful business, that's not the way to do it, is it?
Yes, I like the way you phrase it, that, and it's true. That's literally what I hear, is that let's just start and I'll just see what happens and then I'll figure it out on the way. Sometimes that works, but oftentimes it doesn't. And there's a reason that the vast majority of startups fail. And the way I always like to think about it is, when you want to know how high a building is going to be built, you have to look at the
Mm.
foundation. How deep is the foundation going to be dug? And how much concrete are they going to pour into it? And that's the image that I always use to explain why the right foundation is so important. And when you feel that marketing is a nice to have, that
Mm.
is a challenge. Because if you're not crystal clear on who you're helping, what you're helping them with, what are the pain points that you're truly solving out there, then all the passion in the world will not help you, because you cannot connect with your audience. And in the end, it's a numbers game. Eventually, you will get a client here and there, absolutely. But then there's the next month where it just doesn't seem to work. And that is something that is scary, and been there myself. And the challenge really is that most people then give up, and then they give up even though they have this amazing idea, and it's never going to see the light of day. So the thought really about that is, it's not a nice to have, to be really strategic with your marketing, with your foundation, and with the right, like the groundwork for your business. It is going to help you in the long run. That is for sure.
Mm. Oh, absolutely. I wish I had you, Cole, what is it now? 5 years ago. Because when I started out, I had no clue what I was doing. I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't even know why I was doing it. And I did go that way. But I know that I would have got here so much quicker if I did have that clarity. It took me about 3 years. I would say 3 years to then finally go back, dig in. Okay, what is it that I'm specifically doing? So you must have a particular process to help these startups, because it's what's the word I'm looking for, it can be so overwhelming because there's so much noise out there, and which way do you turn, because there's all these people giving different pieces of advice. So what is your process? How do you help people scale their business so that they don't fail?
You're exactly right. There's so many so-called coaches out there that tell you, you just need to take this master class, you just need to read this book, you just, please insert coin, and then something magical is happening, and the overnight seven-figure success stories are just, you know, there's a very rigid structure the way I started working. So the very first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna stop talking to everyone. Because if you try to talk to everybody, and this is going to go towards niching down and finding your specific place in the world, if you try to talk to everybody, you talk to no one. That is that's the
Mm.
marketing truth most people know. So that's why we're going to start. We're going to start with identifying, who do you want to work with? That's the first thing, because we need to make sure that we can also serve them in the right way. And I'm using serving very, very mindfully, like very purposeful.
Mhm.
That for me, it all comes down to serving people, serving my audiences. So that's the first step we're going to start with. Who do you want to serve with? Who are they? Who are the people that you want to serve? And most importantly, what problems are you solving for them? So it's a very deep dive into the psyche of your persona, avatar, however you want to call it. There's a million names for it, but I call it the ICP, the ideal client project profile. So we're going to get crystal clear on who they are. What is that what are they breaking their brains about? What is that they stay up at 2 a.m. and Google? What are the problems that they're truly having? The obstacles, perceived or real, that they're dealing with. So that's where we're going to go. So we're going to identify them first. We're going to do a check. is this a market that is growing? So you at least don't want to have a declining market,
Mm-hmm.
physical newspaper versus digital magazines, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be able to address them in a flock, easily addressable. Is there any kind of indicator, any kind of identifier that enables you to literally think in a Facebook ad, how do I program the audience by interest, by life stage, etc. So think about, can you address them easily, or is it just like something lingering inside? And then also, is there a true pain point? So you need to make sure, is this really a pain that has urgency, that they really want to have solved? And then lastly, is the buying power there? Obviously,
Mm.
because it needs to be the means to invest into the solution.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the very first starting point. So we're going to define your niche, we're going to define your audience, we're going to define who you're going to work with. Now, the next level is we're going to craft the offer. We're going to craft what is that you uniquely can solve and provide for them. So that will now pair your own experiences, your own skills, services, products, whatever that is that you're doing. And we're going to find all the problems that we are looking at for the client, for the ICP. We're going to take all the problems, we're going to flip them into how could we solve this uniquely for them? So that in the end,
Mm.
we're going to create this offer that just clicks, that people look
Mm.
at, and it's so precise and it's so specific for them that they immediately feel this, oh wow, wait, this is for me. Like you want to create
Mm.
this lean in. You want to create this, wait, this is for me. Nobody else talks to me this specifically. That is what we're trying to get to. And once we
Mm.
have that, then we're going to define the messaging based on that. What is your unique tone of voice? What is your way of speaking in terms of truly like the words, but also the channels? Where do you want to show up? Where do you find your clients, et cetera, et cetera. So to wrap that up, it's the 3-step
Ah.
process of who is that you want to talk to, how are we going to solve it to them, and how are we going to then talk to them about it. So that's in very
Brilliant.
broad strokes the system.
Without overwhelming them. But yeah, there's so much in that. But isn't it funny? It's like people have heard this, but it just goes back to anything. We always think, yeah, I know that. Yeah, but are you doing it?
Correct.
Are you doing it? You might have heard that you've got to niche and you've got, yeah, but have you? And it's so funny that even though they might have heard it over and over, they're still not doing it. So what do you think is the reason for that? Why are they're still, no, I can do this myself. I can do this myself, rather than going back and taking time to lay that foundation and getting help. What's wrong with people? Everybody needs help. It's okay to ask for help. You don't have to do it alone. So why are so many startups trying to wing it and not reaching out and doing it correctly?
There is a lot to say about FOMO, about the fear of missing out. And that can be in so many ways. That can be the part of, if I spend this money on a business coach, I could spend this on advertising. Okay.
Mm.
If your message doesn't stick, I can tell you that 70% of your marketing spend is waste. That's
Yes.
facts. We can look that up. That's like statistically facts. 70% of marketing spend is a waste if you're not on point with your message. And then the other key is that, well, if I talk only to this one specific audience, what about all these other people? I meet so many people throughout my networking or throughout my endeavors. I want to serve all of them. If you pretend to be a master of all trades, you're not really any master. So there's a lot about that. There's a lot about the holding on to, no, I can do this. I built this business. This is my idea. I can do this. And then the realization oftentimes is hitting hard. And it's oftentimes almost at the 11th hour where I would
Mm.
come in. And as you said, it's not rocket science. You can read
Mm.
stuff up. There are a gazillion books out there, but you need someone in your corner to actually walk you through it, who coaches you through it, who've done it dozens and dozens of times. I built multiple businesses myself. I built billion-dollar brands for very large global companies. Like, I know how that works. I know how to play the big game. I know how to, brands that have Super Bowl ads and all of that. I have done all of that, and I have built businesses. So what oftentimes comes with that is like, also, it's not that there's a silver bullet or some kind of magical wand that I'm waving. It is about the fundamentals of starting with your own mindset, of realizing that just because this is your idea, this is great. It's your idea and it's yours to own and yours to bring to life. But you need to be clear on what is it that you're really good at. And all the other places you need to get help. You need to create almost like you need to create your tribe, your team around you, a team of experts. That's the only way for you to really go forward, because you want to be able to focus on what you're really good at and then get help essentially for all the other places. And many people realize it very late in time. Many, unfortunately, never really realize it. And then they run out of steam, they run out of money, they run out of just overall runway.
Desire.
And that is, yeah, exactly. And so I think there's a lot to say about that piece of
Yes.
just trying so hard and just digging.
I think that's massive, because it is like, what, you're going to buy another book? Yeah, but are you going to do anything with it? What, you're going to watch another video? Are you going to see somebody else's idea? Or are you going to, all of that is just noise. It's the implementation. So what I'm hearing from you is having you in my corner. And sometimes I find this quite funny, because it's happened to me as well, is you're in your little world, you've got all these ideas, and sometimes it's just almost verbalizing those thoughts in your head with somebody who can have an outside view of your business and knows what they're doing. Just having that conversation can give things clarity and give you things. I didn't think of that. And it's just so important, and especially in this world where we are, or most of us are going online, it's also a very lonely place. If you're stuck behind your computer, making your plan, trying to build your business, you procrastinate because you're not sure, is this going to work? Isn't it going to work? So having someone like you in their corner to converse with week on, week out is going to help massively, because it is all about, it doesn't matter. You can gain more knowledge. You can watch another YouTube video, but unless you implement that knowledge, which I see that so many people aren't doing, that is the biggie. But there's still this fear, right? What else do you think is still, people are sitting on the fence and they want to, but they're still being held back a little bit. What do you think is going on there?
Just what you said, there are like so many things that just sparked for me. So I'm like taking notes here even. I want to unpack like all of that, Karen. So one thing I think is such a misconception is that I can use ChatGPT for my marketing, for my newsletter. And while that is all good and true, you can create an unlimited amount of content with ChatGPT. That's great. But there's an old saying that I learned from advertising agencies that refers to client briefings. And it says garbage in, garbage out. When you're not crystal clear, ChatGPT is a yes ma'am. It doesn't create new impulses. It cannot give you the reflection that a human does. There's a reason why therapy is a thing. And why often journaling is also really important. You need to be able to get these thoughts out into the real world and then have it reflected back to you. And that is what coaching oftentimes comes about. And the other thing that keeps people stuck is the part about perfectionism. And you said the part about procrastination. You can't imagine how many people out there are tweaking their website for weeks at a time, months, oh, my website isn't perfect. I don't think it's yet perfect. My logo isn't perfect yet. I'm not 100% sure yet. And they sit there and they're busy with it. And they're writing their blog articles because they feel that feels like progress. It feels like doing
Mhm.
something. But what that is nothing else but procrastination in disguise. And
Yeah,
I've always preached that progress beats perfection every time. And so oftentimes when I work with my clients is that they need to hear, honey, this is good enough. Get out there and then you're going to get real feedback from real people and not just your own mind. And because your own mind can only get you so far, we need to get fresh impulses from the outside. We need to get new perspectives from the outside. And that way our brain can really progress and get out of some of those like holding patterns when you think about just not feeling ready and you're stuck in preparation mode forever. And that oftentimes just takes a little nudge. And that is the only way to do that is to go out there and talk to people.
definitely. That really is priceless. And it's a shame that not, because it's like some people, if they're going to create a business, at the end of the day, why do franchises work? It's because they have all that laid out, proven, tested, done. And then you have this other group of people that want to leave corporate or are not following their passion and they want to build a business, but they don't have all that in place. And it's not expected. You're not expected to know everything about marketing and then the admin side or the HR side or this side. And you're not meant to. You don't want to be bogged down with all that stuff that you're not an expert in. You focus on what you do best, which is whatever that is, and have somebody like yourself that's the expert and that is the most important part. It's funny you saying that people want to spend money on advertising. You're just pouring more money down the drain because if you only got one, spending more money on it is you're going to have more of one. Get the message right and you'll get 50, 100, whatever.
Exactly.
So it is about going back and starting it with in the right place so that you are ready to scale. Because in my mind, I think when you don't do that, it's almost like you are setting yourself up for failure because you're not expecting to be able to scale. Otherwise you would. And I do understand there's a lot of mindset issues in there. I get it because I've been there. I'm not totally out of the woods. I've always said good is good enough. And then I wouldn't want to go back and even watch my first episode or even our graphics. We are just continually, I'll just try to improve all the time. Whereas a lot of people coming from corporate, they are waiting. They are perfectionists. I'm not a perfectionist. I don't come from the corporate arena and I am a sort of just go ahead and do. So there are the two sides of that, aren't there? But the way to stop the procrastination then is to get the right advice and right guidance. So if there's people out there who have been thinking about start going off on their own, or they have been going off on their own and it's not really getting them to where they want to be, what should the listeners do next?
I want to say one more thing real quick about the mind. You really nailed it when you said that there is a certain mindset that comes with when you come from corporate or from a 9-to-5 job, whatever it actually is. Society is training us to do things the correct way. You know, you get graded in school because of a certain standardized answer sheet. You have to raise your hands when you want to speak. So all of these things, we're waiting for approval. If you create a work product in your job and you go to your boss and they say, yes, it's good or it's not correct. You always wait for that kind of feedback. That is how we've been programmed. And when you're in that position and you're building and you want to build something else by yourself, something on your own, there is nobody's coming. Nobody's coming to help you, to tell you, to give you the green light. And that is incredibly isolating. And that can be incredibly confusing and intimidating. And that is why so many people stay stuck, because they haven't done the mindset transition yet from the employee to entrepreneur. And that is a fundamental part of my coaching, is to learn and to understand that there's no other impulse than your own gut. And that is really scary, because that's the only thing you can rely on. And so that's a lot of the part of my work, is to learn to trust your own instincts and to understand where you need to go and ask for help. So I just want to make sure like that is really coming across from employee to entrepreneur.
Oh,
That's
so
one of the
important.
biggest things.
So important.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that. So if the listeners are interested, they're like, Nadja is really talking the talk. I want to work with her. What should the listeners do next? What would be their next step?
Please come and talk to me. LinkedIn is my number one platform, but I'm on all the places. You can Google me. But yeah, please come and reach out. Here's the thing. No matter if we're going to end up working together or not, that's not the important thing. For me, this is almost a mission, Karen. It's a mission to help people to understand that there is another way than the 9 to 5. There's another way to be miserable from the moment you get up, like, ugh, I got to go to work. The Monday misery. And then, you have the Friday, hooray, yes, thank God it's Friday. And then Sunday scaries come around fast. And then the whole thing starts over and you just have this pit in your stomach every week. That is not your life. There's another way to do it. If you find the right way, if you find the right, if you have the right foundation in place, there is another way to do it. So if any of this resonated, I love talking. So you can go right on my LinkedIn and book a discovery call with me. Love to meet new people. Let's have a conversation how to get you from here to there.
Fantastic. Brilliant. And Nadja's details anyway will be in the show notes. So if you missed that, then you can always resort back to the notes. So look, Nadja, thank you so much for taking a time out of your day to speaking with me. This has been great. And to the listeners, I will be back after the break and I'll be going to be talking about podcast SEO. Yes, I know it is as boring as it sounds, but no, it won't be as boring as it sounds, because it's very important if you're launching a podcast, because it's all about how to get discovered. That build it and they will come, unfortunately, does not work in this world. So I'll be back after the break. Bye for now. So I'm back. So I'm here to talk about podcast SEO, right? And it really is one of the most overlooked strategies in podcasting, and really how it can help you finally get discovered. Now, I know what you might be thinking, SEO for a podcast? Yes, 100%, because if no one can find your podcast, then, well, nobody's going to listen, right? No. So welcome back to the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast, where we help entrepreneurs grow their business the smart and sustainable way without burnout or fluff. We're diving into one of the most overlooked strategies in podcasting, and that is podcast SEO, and how it can help you finally get discovered. Because I know what you're thinking. You might be thinking, wait, SEO for podcast? Yes, 100%. Because if no one can find your podcast, all that amazing content that you're putting out is basically invisible. Build it and they will come. It doesn't work like that. So let's fix that. So why does podcast SEO matter anyway? Just have a little think about how you find a new podcast. You go to Apple or Spotify and you'll type in something like marketing for coaches or how to grow a real estate business and scroll until something catches your eye. That search bar, that's where SEO comes in. Because podcast platforms are actually search engines. If your show isn't optimized, you're missing out on organic discovery. So 2 to 3 keys to podcast SEO. Let's break it down into 3 simple strategies. Number 1, title and subtitle optimization. Your podcast title needs to be clear and searchable. Let's say your podcast is called The Climb. Great metaphor, but it's very unclear. So add a subtitle, The Climb, Mindset and Marketing for Creative Entrepreneurs, right? Now the algorithm knows what your show is about, and more importantly, so does your audience. Number 2, episode titles matter more than you think. So again, don't get clever, get clear. A title like episode 24, The Pivot, tells us nothing. Change it to How to Pivot Your Business Without Losing Clients. So ask yourself, what would my ideal listener type into the search bar? That is your title. And number 3, show notes equals SEO gold. Most people do not write proper show notes. This is your chance to add keywords, context, links, and almost a mini blog style summary. And you could include relevant phrases like marketing tips for solopreneurs, or how to start a podcast for your business, or scaling your coaching business with content. When you do this, that is going to help Google index your content, not just Apple or Spotify. And then number 3, this is a bonus tip, if you like, quick bonus tip. Use transcripts to boost SEO and accessibility. So there's lots of tools out there, otter.ai or Descript. I personally use Descript. This makes it so easy. You can add alt text and meta descriptions to your website's podcast pages. That's what we do for all of our clients. And you can link back to your episodes in blog posts, or even embed it actually, or your guest appearances too. So SEO is not magic, but it is a multiplier, and small tweaks can lead to big discoveries. Quick recap. Number 1, optimize your podcast and your individual episode titles. Number 2, use keywords in your show notes. Number 3, treat your podcast like it deserves to be found, because it does. Your message matters. People need to hear it. So if today's episode has helped you, hit that follow button and share it with another entrepreneurial coach who's ready to be heard. And if you're stuck on optimizing your podcast, you can just send me a DM if you like, and I would love to help. If you really are thinking, oh my goodness, that just sounds overwhelming because I didn't even know I needed to do SEO for my podcast, and you're thinking about a podcast, we can take the overwhelm away so that you can focus on what you do best, which is coaching your clients. So if you've been sitting on the fence about launching your own podcast because it just seems that there's so much involved, then book a complimentary podcast strategy call. Go to podcastprofitsunleashed.com/appointment, right? Book a call. As a bonus, you will get instant access to your 6-figure podcast blueprint. That is an on-demand workshop. It is quite long because you'll be surprised at how much there is to think about if you're looking to use a podcast to actually grow your business. So just book a free call. You'll get instant access, free access to that workshop, and we can get rid of the overwhelm. Until next week, goodbye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode on the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast. If you're a coach, consultant, therapist, or healer who would like to drive sales whilst having fun podcasting, head over to podcastprofitsunleashed.com/free and find out how you can turn your podcast into a sales machine. We'll see you on the next episode.